Hello viewers, welcome to Faith Word TV. This is an online TV channel operated by Faith Word Charismatic Ministries worldwide. We are located at Oyarifa here in Accra, and we are reaching you live from our YouTube channel, the Faith Word TV. Welcome once again to the very first edition of this program entitled The Word and You. The Word and You. On this program, we are going to be discussing very relevant spiritual topics, Christian-related topics, and those very controversial topics that you've been discussing with your friends, your church members, your colleagues in the office. We are going to be dissecting them into details, of course, with biblical support and scriptures to back up our conversation. Welcome once again. Today on this program, The Word and You, we are going to be having a very exciting discussion. We are going to be discussing one of the very first books authored by the General Overseer of Faith Word Charismatic Ministries worldwide, the Prophet Daniel Afari. This is the book I'm talking about. It's entitled The Beast of Immorality. The Beast of Immorality. Very soon when we come back, I'll be introducing my guest and we'll zoom down into the discussion and a brief review about the Beast of Immorality. Don't go away, stay tuned. Viewers, you are welcome back. We are on The Word and You. This is a very exciting discussion program that we're going to be having every week here on Faith Word TV. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be reviewing this book entitled The Beast of Immorality, authored by the Prophet Daniel Afari. He is the General Overseer of Faith Word Charismatic Ministries worldwide. I have with me here in the studio one of my colleague ministers in the faith. He is Reverend Euclid Ohini Obain. He's going to be helping me out to discuss this book today. Reverend Euclid, you are welcome.
It's a pleasure being here.
So we are here to review The Beast of Immorality, the book we are holding in our hands. Very exciting and interesting topic.
Yeah.
The book is The Beast of Immorality. Who is this beast?
Well, this beast is a beast that is currently eating the nations of the world. It is one that causes men to have inordinate affections for other men, and likewise you have all the spirit of gays and lesbianism coming up. Even when you look at our relationship in terms of how we conduct ourselves by way of sexual activities, now the activity of a man and a woman having sex in a proper marriage constituted forum is no longer the case. You have the case where everybody thinks that it is right and that you can sleep with anyone even before you get married.
So the beast is in town.
Actually, the beast is what is eating us in this end times.
Wow. So I suppose then that this book is about sexual immorality. We've all read it. Tell me, Prophet Daniel Afari says, unraveling the mysteries about sex. Tell us, what are some of the mysteries he talks about in this book?
Well, for everything that God created, it has its significance spiritually. All the things that we see physically came out of the spirit. So there's a spiritual purpose and connection for everything that we see in everything that we do. So the mysteries, now when I talking about the mysteries, we are saying that in the book, the mystery of sex is such that sex is something that is used for worship.
So I am on page 12. This is supposed to be the beginning of chapter 2.
Okay.
Sex exemplifies worship. Now, Prophet Daniel tells us that there are anatomical similarities of the human body and the architectural design of the tabernacle, which qualifies the body of man as a temple for worship. So the human body, as Bible tells us, is the temple of God.
Yes.
What is Prophet Dan trying to let us understand here by saying that sex exemplifies worship?
Okay. So when you take the old tabernacle, you have the tabernacle that has the dwelling place of God. You have the holies of holies, you have the holy place, and then you have the outer courts. So clearly you have a triune thing that is being depicted. Now when you roll on to the human body, you have the human body being made in a triune nature. So you have the spirit, you have the soul, and you have the body. Clearly, there is some form of linkage in terms of the three parts. There again, when you come to the female anatomy, you have the hymen, which covers the birth canal, and then you have the outer aspects of it, which is more of the labia majora and minora. Wow.
Viewers, we are not in a biology class. We are discussing sex. And we are talking about the Beast of Immorality. So you heard Reverend talking about, making references like anatomical design and all those. This is captured in this book by the Prophet Daniel Ejakuafari. So, again, Reverend, tell me something. I'm reading something here again that says that the tabernacle consisted of 3 regions, which I think you've mentioned.
Yeah.
The holy place and the holies of holy. First of all, it starts with the outer courts.
That's right.
The holy place.
Yes.
And the holies of all.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned earlier on about the similarities between the tabernacle from the Old Testament and that of the human body.
Yes.
So our point is Prophet Dan telling us from this book that worship, which we know in reality, is something we do when we come to church. That same worship can be compared to sex, or sex being compared or exemplifying worship. At what point is Prophet Daniel telling us this in this book?
Okay, so when you come to the Old Testament, when you come to the tabernacle, you have the priestly ordinances where the high priest goes into the holies of holies once in a year to present blood upon the mercy seat. It was a form of worship. Now, when you compare the similarities between sexual intercourse, in the sense that when you have a virgin who is untouched, the first man that goes into that virgin is the one that tears the hymen and carries the blood as a form of worship. So it has a certain resemblance and significance in the sense that when you look at the ordinances in the oath, the high priest takes the blood into the mercy seat. But here again, you have the man as the high priest of the woman, and the woman being the sacrifice that is being altered on the bed of romance, which is the altar.
This discussion is getting interesting. Viewers, we're going to come back and then we'll go further into this topic. We are talking about the Beast of Immorality. As a matter of fact, we are reviewing this book authored by the prophet Daniel Afari. When we come back, I'll be telling you something about Ahola and Aholiba. It sounds like a strange name. We'll get to see that when we come back. Stay tuned. Hi viewers, you are welcome back. We are still reviewing the book, The Beast of Immorality, written by the prophet Daniel Afari. I'm still here with Reverend Euclid Ohene Obain, who is helping me to digest the key concept and the key spiritual truth and mysteries contained in this book. Reverend Ohene, before we went for our break, I mentioned about Ahola and Aholiba. It's one of those chapters in this book. A very interesting story in the book of Ezekiel chapter 23. Tell us about Ahola and Aholiba and how it relates to the concept of immorality as we are discussing now.
So Ahola and Aholiba are two sisters. And their lifestyles depicted the lifestyle where they professionalize themselves by giving their bodies as sexual,
in other words, they are prostitutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is very common. I mean, we have red light districts all over our cities.
Okay. So when it comes to Aholiba and Ahola, these were two sisters that they developed their trade, the trade of prostitution, to such an international level that they entice men by words and by looks to get them to sleep with them. And
prostitution at international level.
At international level.
Wow.
And they did it to such an extent that the issues that came out of the prostitution, they offered these babies as sacrifices to other gods.
And whatever the Bible tells us is still happening today. And I believe this very story of Ahola and Aholiba, very relevant to the topic of immorality.
Yes.
Very well. So, again, Prophet Daniel talks about marriage as well in this book, just opposing it with the issue of immorality. Tell us, immorality and then marriage. How did Prophet Daniel talks about this in this book, this very connection?
Okay, so when you take the issue of sex, God created it for a particular purpose. And he created it within the purpose of a man and a woman that are legally married together. So any other purpose outside this now becomes an immorality. And it becomes offensive to God. And then it becomes a worship of the devil. So more or less, the thing that God created to benefit us, people now take it and pervert it to glorify the devil.
Tell me, somebody watching us really maybe asking questions. Sex exemplifying marriage. Now I am told I only need to have sex within marriage. You know, our world these days has gone so bad that people have this saying out there, if you really want to, is it?
Buy a car?
Yes, you need to test drive
the
it.
car?
Biblically, this is wrong.
Yes.
Tell us.
Okay. So when you look at this and you think about it, just make a comparison with what the priest in the old tabernacle does before he goes into the holies of holies. He actually prepares himself, because you have a situation where if the priest does not go through some form of washing and cleansing before he carries the blood into the holies of holies, he ends up being struck dead by the glory of God. What it means is that that priest is not able to come out of the glory of God and will have to be dragged by the other priest from the outer court and the holy place. So when it comes to sex, you have to prepare before you engage yourself in it. And what do I mean by preparation? What I want to say is that you would have to do the necessary rites that goes with it. You would have to pay a dowry. You would have to bring it before God and let God know that you are doing this to honor him. And that's why we have weddings in church where the word of God will be pronounced over the earth for you to now have the legal right to go into as the high priest of the woman.
Very interesting. This book is really loaded.
And
as a matter of fact, it's important to state that, you know, Apostle Paul, writing to the church in Corinth, mentioned that 23,000 men were slain as a result of sexual immorality. In other words, fornication. And that is the highest number of, human beings being killed reported in the Bible. In other words, sex outside marriage, for that matter, fornication or adultery, has grave consequences.
It has. These days, you hear people say that if the glory of God was so strong in our midst, why is it that when people commit these acts and they come to church, the glory will not slay them there? But you see, we are living in a dispensation where grace is speaking for most of us, that God is giving us time to repent of such behaviors.
God is giving us time to repent of such behaviors. You know, I have to go for a quick commercial break, and then when I come back, we would look at that very issue of grace versus immorality as we have it in our society now. Viewers, it's getting more exciting, but I just want to remind you that we are just scratching the surface of this conversation. A lot more is contained in this book, The Beast of Immorality, which I would want to recommend to you. It's a book on sexual immorality. It's a book that talks about holiness, and it's available at the bookshop here at the Prayer House of Faith Word Charismatic Ministries Worldwide. At the end of this program, we are going to put on the screens our contact details, and you can get in touch with us. Free delivery to wherever you are. We make it available to you. Stay tuned. I'll be back. Welcome back to the final segment of our discussion here on the Word and You. This is the program that we delve into the very most controversial issues within Christendom, and then also review some vital books from the founder and the general overseer of this ministry. This is Faith Word TV, and we are reaching you live from the prayer house of Faith Word Charismatic Ministries here at Oyarifa. I still have here with me Reverend Euclid Ohene Obein, who is helping me to review the Beast of Immorality, our chosen book for this program today. Reverend, before we left for the break, we were talking about the grace available to us. Tell us briefly about that in a few seconds, and then we move on.
Okay, so when it comes to the grace of God, God has still stretched his hand, welcoming the sinner to get back to him. What it actually means is that there are people that are in church, but spiritually they are dead because of the repeated acts of immorality. It kills their conscience. Their conscience now becomes dead. But God, in his mercies and his love, is stretching out to these individuals and affording them time to come back to him. It does not mean that when you go through all this and you contract a sexual transmitted disease, the consequence is taken away. You may live with it, except by some divine interventions and miracle, you may still live with it. If you have an unwanted pregnancy, you may still live with that issue and you may still care for it.
It's important, Reverend, for us to mention here at this stage that sexual immorality carries with it lots of guilt.
It does.
Lots of guilt,
It does.
Fornication,
It does.
adultery.
It does.
It's part of the guilt that will live with you for years.
It does.
Even if you become a born-again Christian, you've changed your ways. If you're not careful, it will still be with you for years. Now, this book talks about varied dimensions of immorality.
Yes.
And I've just opened to page 126. And here, Prophet Dan is telling us, discussing the 8 mysteries about sex.
Yes.
I know this is going to excite a lot of viewers. It's important to know that sex carries with it some mysteries, which
That's
the
right.
average person doesn't know.
That's right.
Now, the first one here is sex is a weapon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What makes sex a weapon from what the author tells us?
Okay, so when you take sex, sex becomes a weapon when, in fact, let me reference this on the 2 Samuel 16:20, where Absalom gave Ahithophel gave counsel to Absalom to go and sleep with his father's concubines and his wives, so that he will show the people of Israel that he has a great disregard for his father. So in that context, Absalom was using the weapon of sex to make a political indication that he has no alliance with his father. Now, furthermore, when you look at our generation now, you realize that anytime there are conflicts, there are civil unrest, there are civil wars, you realize that the soldiers that are battling, they perpetuate the art of sexual violence on women. They use the sex bait to intimidate and put fear into the populace. So sex can be used as a weapon.
Very exciting. Is it also related to situations where we have some women, for instance, we've heard stories about politicians who have gone on escapades with women, and we hear about stories like the women are threatening to expose them with pictures they've taken. So that makes sex a powerful weapon.
Very.
Number 2, Prophet Daniel tells us sex is a negotiation.
Yeah.
Wow. He says In every negotiation, two parties are involved. It is either one loses and the other gains, or both parties break even. In other words, in sexual acts, some form of negotiation is involved here.
Yeah, so obviously you can see that when you engage in sex, which is outside the confines of marriage, what you have is that you have a bit of insecurity. You don't know the real outcome of it. You don't really know the intentions of the guy or the lady. So what it means is that you are engaging in a bargain and negotiations, and somebody is obviously going to take advantage of the other. But you may never know until everything plays out.
More of these are in this book, I suppose.
A lot more.
Another very powerful one that I read about is sex is a covenant. And then we know that covenant is an agreement between two parties. Now, he says in sex, the man breaks the flesh of the woman. That's the hymen of her virginity. And blood comes out. This blood wraps on both couples engaged in the act and subsequently enter into their bloodstream. A blood covenant is established.
Yeah.
We know of marriage being a covenant. I'm not too sure many people know that sex is a covenant as well.
Okay, so covenants are established when there is an exchange or when blood is involved. Anytime blood is involved in a transaction, it more or less establishes a covenant. So you have the situation where when the man and the woman are engaging in sex, fluids are being exchanged between both the woman and the man, and that fluid established a covenant between the two of them. That's why you have a lot of issues of soul ties. So you sleep with this, and then you bring another woman to the altar. At the end of the day, you are standing in front of the altar, but your heart is with somebody else because certain covenants have already gone ahead of you, and those covenants have not been dealt with and broken. So you are here, you are married, but you still have baggages that you are carrying with you into the marriage. So
baggages.
It is a covenant.
Wow. This book is really loaded. Now, hear this one. Sex established the human body as a temple. We know from Bible that the human body indeed is a temple. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 17.
That's right.
Now, I think we talked about that earlier on.
Yes.
So I'm just going to move on to the next. Sex is a vocation.
Wow. So the sex being a vocation, when you even look at the story of Ahola and Aholima, they were trading sex for profit.
As a matter of fact, it's said that prostitution is the oldest profession in this world. Reverend, looks like we are running behind time, and we have to perhaps come back to review this book again. But share with us your final words.
Well, the Bible says that for lack of knowledge, my people perish. I would want to encourage each and every viewer to go and look for this book, The Beast of Immorality, and buy, so that you can read and have a proper understanding of what it means to practice sex that glorifies God. For the Bible says that righteousness would obviously exalt you. Without holiness, no one can see God.
Thank you, Reverend. It's a pleasure having you on the program. I believe next time when we call upon you, you'll be here with us to review, if not this book, another exciting book by the prophet.
The pleasure is
God bless you for coming.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Viewers, that is it. It's been a great session with Reverend Euclid Ohinin Obein. We've been reviewing the book, The Beast of Immorality, authored by the prophet Daniel Ejaku Afari, who is the senior pastor of Faith Word Charismatic Ministries worldwide. Now, if you are watching me wherever you are right now, and you want to get copies of this book, we have the numbers on the screen right now and our email address. You can call any of them or send us an email. We will deliver the books to your doorsteps, in your offices, in your homes, wherever you are. These books will be delivered to you. Again, if you are watching us overseas, just call any of those numbers or you can send us email and we'll arrange to get those books to you. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next week again on another session of The Word and You. God bless you. Thank you.